Hey there and welcome. If you're a dog owner who's ever had to deal with a really stubborn bladder issue, you know just how frustrating and honestly, how scary it can be. Today, we're going to dive deep into those chronic bladder problems our dogs face, and we're going to look way beyond the initial diagnosis to get to the real causes and, most importantly, some pretty amazing new solutions.
This is a sentence that veterinarians hear all the time. It usually starts with a little blood in the urine, and you think, okay, no big deal, it's just a UTI. You get some antibiotics, but it doesn't clear up, or maybe it comes right back. And that's when the worry really starts to creep in, right? It's a feeling that so many of us pet owners know all too well.
And that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? When the usual treatments just aren't cutting it, it's almost always a sign that we need to dig a little deeper. Because sometimes that really common symptom is actually pointing to something much more serious hiding underneath.
Okay, so let's start right there with that first, very deceptive symptom. The thing is, the signs can look exactly like a classic urinary tract infection. And that's why it gets misdiagnosed so often, leaving the dog still uncomfortable and you, the owner, just searching desperately for answers.
And then, after more tests, the real issue finally comes to light. Transitional cell carcinoma, or TCC for short. It's a type of bladder cancer. And getting that diagnosis, wow. It can be an absolute shock, especially when you went in thinking you were just dealing with a simple infection. And to make a tough situation even tougher, this type of cancer loves to grow in a part of the bladder where surgery is basically impossible. Hearing your vet say there's really nothing we can do surgically, it can feel like your world is just crashing down. But hold on, that's exactly why we're here today. Because we need you to know that even in these really difficult situations, there is absolutely still hope.
So, to find that hope, we first have to understand what we're really up against. You see, things like bladder cancer and chronic inflammation, they don't just happen out of the blue. It's not just bad luck. More and more research is showing that they're often linked to very specific, identifiable triggers in a dog's environment and lifestyle.
Okay, so here's the deal. We're looking at a few major culprits. For our purposes today, we're really going to focus on two big ones. Environmental toxins, like the chemicals on our lawns, and that chronic inflammation that's been simmering away for way too long. The good news, these are factors we can actually do something about. So let's break them down.
So let's really picture how this happens. Your dog is walking or playing on treated grass. Those chemicals get absorbed right through their paw pads and their nose. Now their body does its job. It processes these toxins and tries to get rid of them in the urine. But here's the problem. As that toxin-filled urine sits in the bladder, it's constantly irritating that delicate bladder wall. And over time, that constant irritation can lead to cancer. Now, some breeds, like Scotties, Shelties, and Beagles, are way more vulnerable because their bodies just aren't as good at detoxifying these specific kinds of chemicals.
Okay, so we've talked about the threats from the outside, but what's actually happening on the inside of the bladder? Well, the body has its own incredible defense system, and understanding how it's supposed to work and, crucially, how it can fail is the absolute key to both treatment and prevention.
All right, it's time to meet the hero of our story, the GAG layer. It's also called the mucosal barrier. The easiest way to think of it is like a powerful, waterproof shield that lines the entire inside of the bladder. Its whole job is to make sure that the toxins and bacteria floating around in the urine never, ever touch the sensitive muscle tissue underneath.
And this slide just illustrates the whole problem perfectly. Over on the left, you've got a healthy barrier. It's thick, it's strong, nothing is getting through. But on the right, you see what happens when it's damaged. It gets thin, eroded, leaky, and now all those toxins and bacteria can just seep right through and start irritating the muscle, causing that constant chronic inflammation. This right here, this is ground zero for so many of those recurring bladder problems.
And if that wasn't enough, there's another really sneaky problem. In a bladder that's always inflamed, bacteria can get really clever. They create this protective slime around themselves called a biofilm. It's basically like an invisibility cloak that shields them from antibiotics. This is exactly why infections can seem to go away, only to come roaring back a few weeks later. The antibiotics never even reach the bacteria hiding out in their little fortress. So, I know this can all sound pretty bleak. We've got external toxins, a broken internal shield, and super smart bacteria. But understanding the problem is the first step to finding a solution. And this is where the story really takes a turn. This is where we get to the really hopeful part. Because some truly innovative strategies are moving away from just attacking the disease and are instead focusing on rebuilding the body's own natural defenses.
For that chronic inflammation and damaged shield, there's this amazing three-step therapy.
First, you repair it. You use specific lipids that literally patch the holes in that waterproof shield. Next, you cleanse. This step uses powerful antioxidants to dissolve that slimy biofilm, which finally exposes the hidden bacteria. And last, you soothe the area with natural enzymes to bring down all that painful swelling and inflammation.
So you see the goal here? It's a complete shift in thinking. We're not just chasing symptoms around anymore. We are actively rebuilding the body's own natural armor, making the bladder strong and resilient from the inside out.
Now, for bladder cancer, there's an equally clever strategy called metabolic therapy. Think of it like a 5-point attack plan on the tumor. First, it blocks the tumor's energy source. Second, it blocks the survival signals cancer needs. Third, it blocks the tumor from invading deeper into the bladder wall. Fourth, it blocks the cancer from spreading to other places. And fifth, it blocks the cancer cells from dividing. It's a total siege, attacking the cancer from every possible angle.
And here's the truly brilliant part. This therapy uses oral meds that are mostly flushed out through the urine. This means the drugs are at a super low, safe level in the rest of the bloodstream, but they become incredibly concentrated right where you need them, inside the bladder. The urine itself becomes the delivery system, constantly bathing the tumor in this high-dose treatment that literally surrounds and starves it. It's just genius.
Now, these treatment strategies are absolutely incredible. But let's be real, the best-case scenario is never needing them at all, right? And that brings us to prevention. The really good news is that your best line of defense starts with simple, powerful steps you can take right at home.
Here are 3 key things you can start doing today. First, add some specific cancer-fighting vegetables to their food. Second, after they've been walking on grass, give their paws and belly a quick wipe down or rinse to get any chemical residue off. And third, just make sure they're always drinking plenty of fresh water to help keep their system flushed out. Okay, so you're probably wondering, what are these magic vegetables? We're talking about cruciferous vegetables. Specifically, things like broccoli and cabbage have been shown to have a seriously powerful protective effect on the bladder. So just how powerful are we talking? Get ready for this. A major study found that dogs who were fed these kinds of vegetables just 3 times a week had a 90%, let me say that again, a 90% lower risk of developing bladder cancer. That's just a staggering, game-changing number for such a simple little change.
And it's so easy to do. Seriously, you just lightly steam or boil the veggies, chop them up nice and fine so they're easy to digest, and then just mix a little bit in with their regular food. A tiny addition with a massive protective benefit.
So I want to leave you with this thought. Whether it's repairing the bladder's own shield or using a simple vegetable as a preventative tool, the future of our pets' health is less about fighting disease and so much more about strengthening the incredible defense systems they were born with. This way of thinking, it really puts the power back in our hands, as owners, to make a real lasting difference in their lives.